the whole theme for March is what if? And so I invite you to go inside, whether you close your eyes or gaze down or however, just go inside and what if, ask yourself this question. What if I fully embraced and embodied and believed that good is always unfolding, even in the face of challenge? What if I expected the great no matter what the world looked like? How might my life change if I fully embraced and embodied this? Well, in the book, Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says that there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. Power for good in the universe that is greater than you are, and you can use it. So the question, he goes on to talk about what the question is, why don't we use it more effectively? Why isn't that just the way that we just know that? Well, part of it is that we have beliefs. We have beliefs inside of us, beliefs that are reflected in our outer experience. And when we use that, when we use belief and faith, we acknowledge that this power is there. And it is the expectancy of the good that activates it. Actually, it's the expectancy of whatever it is we expect is what activates it. And in the context that we're talking about expectancy today, expectancy is faith in motion. And in this case, it's living as though the good we desire is already unfolding. Knowing that no matter what our condition is out in this outer experience that we have. And it's recognizing that both joy and sorrow can often stand by side. And when that happens, we are invited into a space of love and vision, a vision of goodness, of hope that goodness, of knowing that goodness is unfolding, and in believing that it is possible. We are invited into that space. And I'm not talking about blind optimism or ignoring that the condition exists or putting on our blinders and just say, oh, it's all good. That's not what we're talking about. Because one of the things that we do teach and promote in this is we don't ignore what's going on. We just stand in our faith, seeing what is happening, knowing that there is something greater unfolding and expressing itself. And so when we live in this expectancy, we have the opportunity to make a courageous choice to expect better both of ourselves and of the world. And we're given ourselves the opportunity to challenge both our personal and the collective limitations of what can and can't be. And when we live in expectancy, we intentionally inform our subconscious mind of our desires. And when we do that, we begin to embody this truth that spirit is not only present, but it powerfully creates through us, creates that experience. Ernest Holmes had a teacher, one of his teachers and major influence was a man named Thomas Troward. And in his collected works, Thomas Troward said, creative power is the receptive attitude of expectancy, which makes a mold into which the plastic yet undifferentiated substance can flow and take the desired form. That creative power creates the mold. And the substance, the universal substance, that from source, that is in the invisible, takes shape in that mold that we create. And it is those inner beliefs that we have. It is our fears, our doubts, our willingness to come into cooperation with the law of mind that shapes that that container. Because it is our subconscious mind is that medium, that space that's between this what he calls undifferentiated substance, or this unconditioned good that is waiting to express itself, and the amount of good that we're willing to allow into our own experience. When we start to expect positive incomes, I like positive incomes too. When we expect positive outcomes, we begin to notice opportunities rather than just let them pass by. We could ignore them if we don't have this life of expectancy. And when we do that, when we start to notice those opportunities, we can take constructive action to make them happen, and then that draws favorable circumstances into our lives. Now, if you've been in this teaching for any length of time, or if you're new, we have a saying: change your thinking, change your life. And it's like, it is so true, because it is our inner mindset that shapes what we perceive as possible. I like to think of it like a lens. So I'm going to take a little deviation here into my life as an engineer. There was a point in my career where optical fiber was becoming the way to transmit communications globally. However, it was a point in time when if wherever you are, you wanted to call me, and here in Virginia in the USA, in a copper wire system, it would have to make all these different changes in the route that it takes, and those were called switch boxes. And so what happened is, after optical fiber started taking over, when it was time to switch to get from you to me, they would have to turn it back into an electrical signal, take the light signal, turn it into electrical signal, switch it, and then turn it back into a light signal. There's a whole bunch of technology that goes with that. But part of my job, my job was to work with people suppliers of lenses, who could make that happen all with light, where we didn't have to change it back into an electrical signal. And what happened was, because we were trying to switch to different frequencies, different wavelengths, it took a very special lens. And what we found over time was, it took a person to actually go in and look at how the light was coming through that lens and make minor corrections, large corrections, minor corrections, to get it to do what we wanted it to do, to get it to allow that good that we were looking for, that we desired. We had to go in and polish the lens in very specific ways. And I bring this up because that's the very same thing that we can do with our own inner mindset. When we think of it as this lens, that the idea of what it is, the good that we desire, comes through that lens, which is our subconscious mind, which is where we have these beliefs and fears and doubts that can come in and change the way that light comes through to manifest in our lives. And so what we need to do is to become our own skilled optician, and go in and look at, where is that lens causing the light to go different than what we desire? What belief is it? What doubt? What fear? What divisive thought do I have? What kind of despair am I feeling like I'm in at this point in time? And we go in and we work with those. We work with those, that inner mindset that deflects what it is we truly desire. And when we live in expectancy that the good is happening, and this is what I expect to be in my experience, an inner transformation begins to happen, and it becomes a catalyst for real and tangible changes in our lives. When we do this, it empowers us to break the old patterns that keep us in fear, that keep us in despair. And we can begin to creatively respond to the challenges that come into our life because we are changing the perspective that we have on what is happening in that outer experience. And when we start to do this, we become magnets for the good we desire. And I can tell you from my own personal um, experience that creating this new lens, working with this inner mindset is not always the easiest thing to do because I may not even understand what some of those fears and beliefs might be that are distorting the good that I desire. And if we go back and look at it, that this is the um, this subconscious mind that we have is that medium between this unconditioned good, building that mold of what it is we want in our lives, and the amount of good we are willing to allow into our experience. And what I have found that working with a licensed practitioner has helped me tremendously to empower myself to break that and allow it to become this catalyst for real and tangible change in my life. In the book, This Thing Called You, Ernest Holmes goes on to say about expectancy that it speeds progress. Therefore, live in a continual state of expectancy. No matter how much good you are experiencing today, expect greater good tomorrow. Whoa. Expect the good today, and then tomorrow expect even more. So, wow, when we live in expectancy, it takes courage. It's can be considered pretty rebellious to do this. It's a revolutionary way to look at my life because the world is always going to present conditions to us. Some are going to be, beautiful with, the angels singing, ah, and some are going to be very painful. And sometimes it'll be both at the same time. But when we expect the better, when we expect that good that we desire, when we go back to what Troward said and Sandy in her readings, that it is our imaginative participation in our future possibilities. And we have that courage to stand for living in our best life today. What happens is we choose to see a better way, even when there seems to be no way at all. We anchor ourselves in that good is always unfolding. And what happens is we continue to broaden and deepen our faith, and that begins to shape the way we show up. The lens that we are looking at life through changes. And we are the master opticians of making that lens be what we desire. And the more we work on it, the more we work on the flaws in that lens, the more we work on the fears and the doubts that we have and these misbeliefs that we have or false beliefs that we have about ourselves. The more we do that, the deeper our faith becomes, and it shapes the way we show up. We show up differently. And when we show up differently, it invites others into this space where love, justice, and peace aren't just ideals, but they are living possibilities. And when we do this, what we find is what we are modeling is not a passive thing. It's not passive. We just don't sit there and say, well, it's all good. I'm whole, perfect, and complete. We can say that. But now what we do is to need to go in and look at that lens of what's showing up in my experience that is counter to that. Because it takes a moral and spiritual commitment to the betterment of yourself, of myself, of yourself, and of all around me. Because when that starts to happen to me, to you, it affects everyone around. There was a point in time in my life when I wanted as my divorce was happening. I wanted our family to be a wonderfully functional, dysfunctional family. And I went to this, we did this family counseling for I think 2 times. And finally the counselor pulled me off to the side and he said, "You know what? If mom's happy, everybody's happy. Let's work on you and make sure you can get through this." And so what we did is together we became those opticians. This was before I was in Science of Mind. But the man that I was seeing at the time could have easily been a practitioner because he believed in all of this. He always believed that good was always unfolding, that there was a higher good unfolding in everything that was going on. And again, I can't stress enough that I am not just talking about positive thinking and ignoring what's going on. What I'm talking about is being in conscious cooperation with the law of mind. And when you think about it, this global situation that we're in right now, it's really easy to let fear, division, and despair get in the driver's seat and drive our bus. It's really easy to do that because there's not only our own limitations and fears that we have, but there's the collective consciousness that also is full of that. And so when we consciously cooperate with the law of mind, when we consciously state what it is and courageously stand for living our best life today, and we live in this expectancy that we're talking about, and that no matter how much good you're experiencing today, experience greater good tomorrow. When we take that stand, we do not ignore what's going on. What we do is we get to stand in our spiritual power and look it in the eye and say, "Thank you very much. And the truth I know about this is," and fill in the blank from that knowing that spirit is there in every situation, waiting to be acknowledged to bring out the good. So that what we do is instead of letting fear and despair, divisiveness drive our bus, if you will, drive our life. Instead, what we do is we begin to align our choices, our speech, and our energy with this divine possibility. And we stand in our spiritual power because we develop this inner conviction that spirit is already there working for our good. And we find that we start to resist that pull into the cynicism, into the fear, into the doubt, and we become channels of possibility. And we actually begin to challenge this collective belief that we have that our outer world drives everything, has the final word in how we experience life. So, expectancy is more than just wishful thinking. It's an intentional act of aligning our subconscious beliefs with what we know is truth. With the truth, with the knowing that good is always available to us. We become our own master optician. And we can reach out for help. We can reach out for help in that with our with licensed practitioners, with our prayer partner, with people who understand this concept of expectancy. And we can begin to inwardly believe and embody this truth and be in it, because what is in our inner mindset is what becomes the pattern of our life. And so we can choose to expect good. We can make a conscious decision to cooperate with the law of mind. And then what happens is we each become a living, a living example of our faith in motion. And so, you can sit there and say, oh, well, that's all really great, Jackie, but that sounds really good. However, and what we're doing is the same thing I'm asking us to do in the opposite. So here's something we can each do this morning. And those of us who were at the meditation this morning, Sandy brought this up too. This week, make a conscious decision sometime in your morning routine to declare out loud one specific good you expect to see that day. Just one thing. It could be an act of kindness, either that you do or someone else does towards you, just expecting kindness. It could be some challenge that you have and expecting a breakthrough, expecting that solution to show up. Or it could just be a moment of beauty of walking outside and hearing the birds sing, or seeing the sunset or the sunrise, or having that wonderful experience that I was talking about before we got started, where my 3-year-old grandson just out of the blue had his dad call me yesterday to let me know he was going to the grocery store to get a tomato so he could have a BLT sandwich. And he was very excited about that. He wanted me to know that. And it was beautiful. It was an incredible conversation. Set that expectancy. Declare one good thing you expect to see each day. And then throughout the day, notice if doubt, cynicism, resignation try to creep into your thinking. That, nah, this can't happen. Nah, there's no way. And when you notice that, then consciously replace those thoughts with an affirmative statement of faith. One of my favorite ways to do that is to say, thank you very much. And the truth I know about this is whatever it may be. And if you need help with that, contact one of our practitioners or ministers, and we can help you with that. If you have a prayer partner, they can help you with that too. And then if you do experience difficult news or situation, or you just become aware of your own a setback that you're having, just pause for a moment and take a nice deep breath, maybe a couple breaths, and then re-anchor yourself in the idea that spirit is at work, even in this situation that you are currently experiencing, no matter what it is. Is this easy? Well, it's simple to say. Is it easy to do? It takes courage. It takes courage. It takes consistency. It takes being aware of what my thoughts are. It's like this particular optical shop that we found was in this extremely old building in Warsaw, Poland, where these gentlemen they have been making lenses, long before I was even probably a thought in my dad's mind at the time. And they would just sit there and they would do the testing that they needed to find that flaw in the lens, and go in there and either with their finger or however they needed to do it, they would just do that one little bit of correction, and it would change the way the light went through that optic. And that's what we want to do. So if we set that intention each morning this week of what good, one specific good I expect to see that today, and then notice when doubt and cynicism or resignation or any negative thoughts may creep in, and then consciously replace those with an affirmative statement of the faith that I have that good is unfolding, things will shift. And I'd love to hear about it. And so in closing, I'm going to leave you with another Ernest Holmes quote. and we'll do prayer today. So this is from this thing called you. Faith is the most important thing in your life. It is impossible to arrive at the grandeur of its possibility through petty thinking and small ideas. The whole mental scope must be broadened and deepened. The whole expectancy must reach out to more. The whole imagination must lend its feeling to grateful acceptance and joyous recognition. And when we do this, we correct that lens. We allow ourselves to expect more good in our lives. We open ourselves up to the good that is available to us. And so now I invite you to join me in prayer. As I express what it is I know is truth. And so as I speak these words, I speak from that place within me where there is the I am. It's not Jackie that is speaking. It is the I am that is speaking these words of truth. For what I know is that there is a power and a presence that is greater than I am, that is greater than anything any human can ever conceive. And it is a power for good. And it is there everywhere, in all situations, in everything that has ever been created, ever will be created. It is that power and presence that creates, animates, and sustains everything in the universe. For what it does is it creates from itself, as itself, all that is, so that it can experience the one life that there is. And I know that I am, and each person hearing my voice right in this moment right now, we are each a unique, individualized expression of that. And this power has many names. I choose right now to call it love, because it is the power of love. Because love is all that there is. And that each and every one of us is a physical manifestation of that power. And so, what I claim right now for each and every one of us, for everyone who hears my voice, myself included, that this is a week of living in expectancy. This is a week of recognizing that the good is unfolding even when it may not look like it. I claim for each of us, I accept for each of us this greater good, this knowing, this not ignoring, but standing and facing whatever may be presented to me, and facing it with that knowing, that faith, that embodiment of the truth of what I am, the truth of what I am, the truth of what each of us are is we are an expression of love. We are unique and individualized, bringing a perspective that only we bring. And so what I know is that expectancy, that living in expectancy grows, and that there are tangible changes to each life. And so in knowing this, in expressing this in the word, I am in such gratitude to know this truth. I'm in gratitude to express it. I'm in gratitude to experience it. And so in that gratitude, I let this go into the law of mind. It is love that points the way, and it is law that allows it to happen. And so it is through that law that I place this declaration in those loving hands and just allow it to be. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. Thank you very much.